Well, welcome to another episode of Manifesting Magically with Trevor and Ann. I'm Trevor, and with me is my good friend Ann. And before we get started, we'd just like to thank everybody for being subscribed to the channel. Thank you for liking, watching, commenting on the videos, sharing the videos. Um, and if you watch the videos and you're not subscribed, we'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscription button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps the channel be promoted by the YouTube algorithm to more people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So, Anne, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing good. It's getting to be really close to the holidays, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like we just finished up with Thanksgiving and now we're in that winter spirit, that December energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to as the days get shorter, it feels like I relax more. And then once we hit the winter solstice, then it's like energy starts picking up again. I don't know if you respond to the cycle the same way that I do, but the ending of things and then the beginning of things and then we have the new year, of course, which is the end of the year and then beginning of the new year. And yeah, there's people make resolutions and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's a fun time of year.
It certainly is. Yeah, December is a time where I will start sleeping a little bit more for sure. And I actually don't regain my energy till closer to February when we start to notice the sunlight getting a little bit more longer. But it's a good time for reflection, isn't it?
It is. It's a good time to recharge. It's a good time to, since it does where I'm at, the sun comes up about 7:45, 8 in the morning, and it sets around 4:30. It's that's a lot of time to spend in the house. So doing housework and cleansing things is something that comes to mind this time of year. And of course, if we're having people over for the holidays, societal pressure to make everything look nice.
Hmm. Yeah, well, we do want to encourage everyone to go outside, dress appropriately. It is wonderful to be outside in winter, but we do tend to spend more time indoors and more time with, lights, extra lights on around the house, and more time in a reflective mood and I mean, this is a great time to do a cleaning mood, isn't it?
It is, and it's funny when we were talking before we came on, you had talked about cleansing the house and removing energies and stuff. And we'd already started that at home with various techniques, which we'll talk about here in a bit. But it just kind of feels like the natural time to do it. And I think it's the ebb of the year, right? The days are getting shorter, so we're releasing things is the way I think about it. Kind of like the moon gets smaller, you release.
Yeah.
Then
We're
when the
getting rid of negative energies or just the buildup of stagnant energy around our house.
well, that's right, and especially when it gets when we've had like here the autumn season. Sometimes we don't need the heat and we don't need the AC. So, the air really is stagnant except for a couple fans. And, once, of course, we need the heat, then the air is moving constantly. And this is kind of the first week we've had to turn on the heat, but yeah, I think things can get stagnant. I think, it just, I don't know. I can always kind of tell when it's time to do an energy cleanse because I find myself, maybe bickering with the cats. It's like I just fed you. We have two new kittens and they're adorable and they're actually not kittens anymore. They're about 5 months old, but um, I mean they want to be on top of me constantly, which is great.
Hmm.
but at the same time, it's really hard to type on a laptop when you have kittens on you.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I'm just curious, what type of stuff do you do to remove negative energies or
Well,
stagnant energies?
one of the staples that I do, something that you taught me would be the salt cures that I put around my house.
Yeah, I'm going to make one here in a bit, but yeah, I think that is the best thing I've ever learned as far as energy cleansing. And I've been doing it for decades. I guess we could just jump in and do it if you want to talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's jump in. I love this, and I only started doing it a couple of years ago. But the energy in my home, like I going through a tough time, I was struggling, all that negative energy from a toxic workplace, as much as you try to leave it there, it comes into the house, and I needed to get rid of that. And this salt cure really helped turn things around.
Absolutely. And you know, the we can generally tell, me and my spouse can generally tell when it's time to change them because we'll just find that, it's like, you know, not, we don't really argue that much, but every once in a while it's like, we can't decide on supper and it seems like a midlife crisis. And it's like, when's the last time we changed the salt cures? It's
Well,
like,
yeah, I remember. I mean, I still like I tell this story all the time that you told me of you started doing salt cures and there was one room in the house that didn't have one yet, and that was the place you and your spouse argued. That was the
it's,
only one room that arguments came up in.
yeah, because we really don't argue a lot. We're very lucky. And we never argue about anything serious, but what are we
Yes,
going to watch on
where you're
TV?
going to eat supper might be
Where we're going to
the
eat
big
supper?
thing.
Yeah, or what time we're going to eat supper. Sometimes we get off track on that, but uh, yeah. Especially there was a hallway, in a particular, like where the stairs went down into the basement, and the stairs went up to the second floor. Like that intersection in our old house was always a trouble spot, and it never occurred to me at the time because when we make the salt cure, you see, but you know, you have to have a place to put them, right?
Hmm.
And you want to put them in kind of a conspicuous place. So, there wasn't any shelving there, so it never occurred to me to put one there. But after we thought about it, we figured out a way to do it. So for a salt cure, what you need, I'm going to use a plate here just so I don't make a mess, but I actually usually use a flower pot. Uh,
I actually do too. I love it. I bought some cheap plastic flower pots from Menards and when they were on
yes.
sale. And yeah, it works out great.
It's because we have to throw everything away when we're done with them. That's why we want they last for about 6 months to a year. Use your own. Once you get used to them being in your house, you'll know when it's time to change them. Um, so what this is just regular salt. There's nothing special about it. If you wanted to use Himalayan salt, you could. But it doesn't really matter. Now, traditionally, you put coins in here, but I always think that just sends a bad message to the universe, throwing money away at the end. So I use just like washers from the hardware store. They're real cheap, and you want six of them. And
For each
so
salt cure, by the way, and you have one salt cure per room or space, right?
that's right. So depending upon how big your house is or apartment, you might need, three or four, or if you have a really big house, you might need a bunch, right?
Hmm.
It just kind of depends. There are certain places where you don't put them, like you don't put them in bathrooms because generally we don't hang out in bathrooms. I guess if you do, then maybe you might want to put one there. Or if your laundry room is a bathroom, right? Then perhaps maybe, um, definitely in the kitchen, definitely in the place where you hang out the most. Generally, the bedroom is a good idea. Spare rooms, offices. Um, I've even snuck one into my work office a few times. I'm sure the custodial staff is like, what's going on here? But, uh, you know, I just really think these work. So this is a Chinese tradition or feng shui tradition, I should say. But so you take six washers or coins. You can buy those I forget what they're called, the little decorative Chinese coins.
I don't
Um
know the word for them.
yeah, you
But
can
yeah, you can buy the decorative Chinese coins and use those if you prefer.
yeah, I don't. I just do washers because they're cheap and we're going to throw them away. And like I said, I just think it sends a wrong message to the universe that you're throwing away money. So you put your six washers, try to space them out. I didn't do a great job here, but um, and then once you have this, you're basically done. So what I would do is I would put this in a flower pot because you can put a flower pot on a shelf and it's not at all, obvious what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, and and it makes it really easy to throw away because we'll talk about that here in just a second. So after you've done this, I generally put it where I want. So before I add the water, so let's say I'm gonna put it in the kitchen, I would maybe put it in our house. Our cupboards don't go all the way to the top. There's like that little space. I put it there. So nobody really ever sees it. It's there. And I have two of them in the kitchen because our house is kind of an open floor plan. So that kind of takes care of also a little bit of the breakfast dining spot as well. Um, and so you're going to add water. So sometimes it's just easier to get it where you want before you add the water. That way you're not making a mess. And then you'll add water to about so it'll bubble and make all sorts of fun noises that kids would laugh at. Um, so fill it about to there, and then you'll set it in whatever spot you want. Um, and I leave it for 6 months, 9 months, sometimes a year. It just kind of depends. I can tell when they need to be changed, but a good rule of thumb would be 6 months.
Hmm.
And when 6 months comes by, our trash gets picked up on Tuesday morning. So on Monday night, I would go by with a big trash bag and I would throw them all in there, trying not to touch them and washing my hands really good after I'm done. And I take it straight to the garbage can and put it straight to the curb all at the same time. Because the idea is that the salt is going to absorb all the negativity. And so you'd want to be really careful because you don't want to spill that all back out, right? It could be, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but you definitely want to clean it up because energetically, you can kind of tell. And what happens throughout the 6 months is crystals start to form. The crystals will go over the side of the glass jar. It is important that you use a glass jar. I did forget.
Yeah, the mason jars work really well.
Right.
That's what I use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever you can find that isn't too expensive, I often just go to the Goodwill and see if they have uh, jars because it didn't really matter, right?
Hmm.
That part's not important. The salt, it really isn't that important. The washers or coins, again, it's just the idea of the salt with the metal will absorb the negativity. And the crystals will grow. I mean, if I've left it for 9 months, I've seen crystals go all the way over the side. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes they make little hairs too. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but then at the end of your 6 months, you're going to throw it into a garbage bag, take that garbage bag out to the curb right away, and then just start fresh with new ones. And make sure you wash your hands afterwards. And I've been doing this for a very long time, and I think it is singly. the best way to get rid of negative energy. It just, there's something about it that just really works. And, I mean, I think I once Googled the history of this, and it dates back centuries, right? So
Mhm.
things that are that old, I think, are worth listening to, right?
Yeah, and keep in mind that the water is going to be thrown away too. So like the reason why I use mason jars personally is I keep the lids. And
Mhm.
then if the crystals haven't like done this gargantuan overflow thing, you can put the lid back on the jar and then just throw the entire jar away, which makes it a lot easier. Um, it is a little bit more tricky for the ones where the salt crystals go and move over the sides, and I've got some of those. Uh,
Uh,
but if it's cold enough outside, you can freeze it before throwing it in the trash bin. Um,
yes,
Something like that.
and oftentimes too, the water will evaporate. So depending upon, like, if you're in a dry climate, the water might evaporate and you might have to actually water them at the 3 month mark. And
I do that at my place in particular because when winter comes, it gets really dry around here. And
yes,
so you just naturally need to do that. Um, and one thing to note is that pets just ignore this. I mean, they're curious maybe a little bit, but they don't drink salty water really. So,
no, I've never had an issue with the cats wanting to even smell them.
yeah.
So it's weird, but that is a good point. So, and yeah, that is one of the things I do. I think it's super, super cleansing. I think it uh, makes the energy just feel a little bit cleaner. And, I mean, I find after, especially like after they've been there for about 2 weeks, like things are just lighter, more jovial, more laughter, it's kind of amazing how it works. So I'm a big proponent of this technique. I think it's uh, super good. So
And they're
yeah,
super easy to make.
yeah. And then you just throw them away. And if you can, what I was gonna say, if you time it right, um, hopefully there's no water to deal with, right? When you go to throw it
Hmm.
away.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes there is, you're right, and we have to be a little bit careful then. That's why I have the lid to this jar too. So I do the same thing. And sometimes I'll set this on the lid, in a flower pot. The main thing is don't set it on just directly on a shelf or on a cabinet, because the salt could go over the edge and start to get to the shelf, and then who knows what's going to happen at that point. So do be
Yeah.
careful there. This I've had some that have grown wild, and I also think that's kind of tells you what spaces in your house are more prone to negative energy, the ones that grow more. So,
Hmm.
like in our current house, um, the upstairs bedroom, which is not our bedroom, but the upstairs bedroom is where they always grow the most. And that's and in the house that we were talking about with that hallway, that's where they grew the most, was the hallway. So uh, you know, and some spots they don't grow at all, I mean, or they grow very little. I think that kind of, and then ask yourself, do you feel happier in those spots? It's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, like our bedroom, for example, the salt cures, they grow, but they don't grow crazy. And we tend to, feel pretty light and comfortable in our bedroom. So like to read books and stuff. So anyhow, I
I have a question for you, Trevor.
sure.
Um, so I do find that my, jars tend to grow at different spaces, different rates. There's like one room in particular, the boiler room in my house, that it just grows like crazy. If I change out one of them, should I be changing out all of them around the house at the same time?
Oh, that's a great question. You don't have to. I think of it kind of like smoke detectors. If you're going to change batteries, change them all.
Mm-hmm.
But you certainly don't have to. There's no rule there. So yeah, no, if you feel like you need to change it in just one room and the rest are okay, I think that's fine. Because
Okay.
because I mean, if you shop around and you look for good deals on the jars and on the salt and on the washers in general, like I think I got 1,000 washers years ago for like $1. So I've never ran out. But they're not that expensive to make, and the flower pots, are just a nice way to do it. And generally, you can get like 40 of them for $30 or something, less than $1 a piece at least. So, and you don't need 40 salt cures, probably. I mean, you can, but I don't think you probably do. Um, I think, a good rule of thumb would be, probably one per 500 square feet,
Mm-hmm.
on those lines, I would think. So, but I mean, you're welcome to make as many as you want, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I've never, I rarely have company ask about. I think I've had one person in my house ask about them, and
Hmm.
that's it.
Yeah, I've never in all the have never had anybody else.
Yeah, well, and you don't really notice them because they are hidden in those flower pots and in the corners of the room or, under a shelf somewhere. Uh, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Or on a bookcase with something else in front of it, right?
Hmm.
Or, just make sure you don't put them like behind cupboard doors, right? Because that kind of defeats the purpose. They need to be in open spots.
Yeah, it would cleanse the area of the cupboard, but that's not what you
That,
want.
yeah,
So,
that's not what we
yeah.
want. That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, hopefully that's helpful. Obviously, leave a comment if you have questions about it. The other thing I do, Anne, and I see that you have similar candle holders to me as well, the Himalayan salt candle holders. I think those are really good. As
Yeah, I love my Himalayan salt candle holder.
I
I
have,
do need to file it down a little bit because my tea candle sits a little bit on top of it, but
so I have a bunch of them as well, and then I have a handful of these. These are actually Himalayan salt deer licks. They're for the deer, but they're salt. So, uh,
and okay, PSA here, just quick, do not put salt licks out for the deer in winter because of chronic wasting disease, please. We do not want them gathering because the viruses that deer have can travel and that can be really devastating to the deer. So,
yeah, I've never once used it for that purpose. So, the deer come around all the time without them. So,
exactly.
but I got this I think this is from back when we were in school. Actually, I think it's that old.
Oh, wow.
But was that a like a Fleet Farm or like a Tractor Supply or one of those like country stores? Uh,
Hmm.
it was real cheap. I think I bought four of them. I still have all four of them. Uh, I don't remember how much they were, maybe $4 a piece, something like that. They're probably,
Oh, wow.
but um, so I keep these just in random places in the house. You do want to make sure you put it on something protective, though, like a piece of
Yep.
glass or marble or something.
Yeah, you can see I put a glass thing under mine because if you'll notice, like at the bottom, it tends to rime up a little bit, especially if there's some humidity in the air. So in the summer, it will kind of do that and it can damage your furniture if you don't have something underneath it.
Did I ever tell you the story about how I discovered the Himalayan salt licks to buy to do this?
No.
So years ago, I used to go to this wellness center, which was like a chiropractor slash acupuncture slash, whatever um, kind of stuff. And they had a room uh, in there that was just full of Himalayan salt. And you could go in there while you were waiting for your appointment and you take off your shoes, and you just walk around in the salt. And it always made me feel better. And so I asked them, where did you get all this salt? Because I mean, salt's expensive, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, in this case, we're talking hundreds of pounds of salt, right? And he said, "Oh, I just bought, the a pallet of Lavendaire like salt things." And I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, they're at, I think it was this Fleet Farm one. I think that was the name of the store, but yeah. So anyhow, that's how that all came about years ago, and so I bought four of them and put them in various parts of the house, usually like in the rooms that I think need the most attention. So yeah.
Yeah, and those ones can be put out in nice spots. I also have I have one of the Himalayan salt. It has a little light inside of it. I'm sure a lot of people have seen those. I think those are just a nice calming background light sometimes.
Absolutely. I have some of those, and then I have way too many of the Himalayan salt candle holders, uh, just because I like them.
Yeah.
So I think, that's good to have. Yeah. So
Well, and this stuff can be very useful when you are doing some meditative work, especially when you're dealing with kind of darker energies, which you may be doing in winter.
oh, for sure.
Which leads us to, have you ever heard about shadow work, Trevor?
I've heard about it, but I don't know the exact definition of it. And I'm curious to learn what you have to share.
Yeah, so shadow work is kind of where you're exploring and transforming some of those energies that are hidden or suppressed in yourself. So these might be emotions, they could be memories, they could be desires, thoughts, whatever, right? It's kind of the hidden part of yourself or the start part of yourself that you don't want to acknowledge as much. And there could be a lot of uncomfortable emotions surrounded with the shadow side of your personality, which makes it a really good thing to work on in the winter months where it's kind of darker, it's kind of quieter. So even if you're working with those emotions, they aren't as you have that quiet energy of the winter to kind of calm things down and keep things low key. I would say that you never want to do shadow work if you are having mental health difficulties, because that can be just too much. So, like, I put off shadow work when I'm dealing with trauma. I will wait until I'm a better mental health space before I start doing some of that work. But it can also, towards the end of your mental health journey, it can help you kind of close that circle and process that trauma.
Sounds like a wise thing to work on when you're healthy to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, if you don't do the stuff right, ignored parts of yourself can block manifestation, which is part of the reason why I thought we should maybe talk about it here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, the goals for shadow work, of course, is to be self-aware of what's going on. Because, like there's parts of yourself that maybe aren't so pretty, and we don't want to suppress or necessarily deny that those parts exist. We want to come to acceptance. We want to integrate it within ourselves and come to an agreement. And we can massage out certain parts, of yourself that you don't like and work towards being a better person. But there are parts of ourselves that are just not going to change. And coming to that acceptance of this is who I am and this is a part of myself. And here's how I handle that part of myself, you know, is a really good thing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's like, occasionally if I'm understanding correctly, occasionally. I'm pretty good at being intuitive for others, but when I have intuitions about myself, sometimes I second guess them.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't follow through, or occasionally I'll get these notions in my head, like when I had my cold last month. It's like, oh, you're Trevor, you're being lazy because
Which is not true.
young
Yeah.
man, you probably should stay home, but you know, uh, but some of that stuff gets ingrained in us as children, and it just is hard to.
Hard to change that
Yeah.
mindset.
So you have.
Yeah, and doing the shadow work can help release that hidden power that we've kind of kept under thumb unintentionally. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's other things like, certain just knowing like what triggers you and what might allow, might be something that emotionally dysregulates yourself, whether it's a family member or this or that, and then being proactive and building up these ideas of what am I going to do so that I can navigate those situations appropriately that's best for me. So, shadow work is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been doing it for years without ever calling it that, which is good to know. But yeah, I mean, I often will sometimes ask myself, whose voice is that?
Hmm.
Like when I'm feeling like lazy, or like I don't ever feel lazy when I like thinking, oh, taking a day off work means you're lazy. Because that's just ridiculous, right? It's just
Yeah.
not sanity there. That's somebody else's voice, and I know whose voice it is, and so that makes sense. And like over like another part of me is I can get really overwhelmed around uh not financially planning. Like I have to financially plan my months and my weeks and my otherwise I just get
Mhm.
overwhelmed, right? And,
Yeah.
and I don't like not knowing exactly what money's going where and whether I'm going to have enough, and so just by doing these simple acts of planning, that tends to take away that type of weird emotional response that one can have to, because money's stressful. Whether you have any or you don't have any, it's stressful. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
just,
It's stressful for everybody.
yeah.
Yeah, and so this kind of work helps with that. And there's different ways that you can do shadow work. Some people like to journal after doing a divination of some sort, working with tarot cards or something like that. Some people like to use candle magic. Crystals are really nice. There are a bunch that are really great. I was thinking I've got a smoky quartz here that is useful
Me
for
too.
releasing those negative energies and working through things. Obsidian is also a really good one, although I prefer the snowflake obsidian because it's milder in its effect. So if you're dealing with like a big trauma, you want like a mild come down from that trauma of releasing it, not just all at once, can be really jarring to the self. And you can do guided meditations as well.
I like that. I was talking, I think in so the video that's coming out about the energies of the week that I made before we started this video. Um, I was talking about, how we sometimes we don't trust our intuition, and how we can get um, overwhelmed. And sometimes just having something like this is probably too big, but something to put in your pocket, or like whether it's just a coin or
Hmm.
anything, just to like rub to remind yourself that, this
That
is
you're safe,
uncomfortable.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because some things are uncomfortable, and it's better to just acknowledge they're uncomfortable than to try to ask, why am I uncomfortable?
Yeah, and I love having stones, crystals in my car, in my purse, in my
Mhm.
pocket. I usually have some on me somewhere, wherever I am.
Me too. Me too. Another thing that the custodial workers at work probably think that's crazy.
Oh,
But I have them in mostly hidden, uh
yeah, yeah,
but
so do I.
I think that's a good thing too. And to just it's kind of like the best thing that I think I ever learned in my 20s when I used to have a lot of panic attacks and a lot of anxiety, especially after my grandmother died, because that was pretty traumatizing. Uh, was Don't ask why you're having a panic attack. Just say, I'm having a panic attack and let it be. It's like,
Hmm.
because a lot of these things aren't rational. And so
No.
you try to give it power by rational, like trying to make it seem rational.
And
Uh,
and working through these emotions can be really tough.
yeah, and I think yeah. So speaking of crystals, you know what I have?
What?
I have a new oracle deck.
Oh, lovely.
The
A crystal one.
Crystal Wisdom Oracle deck. Should we throw a few cards?
Yeah, let's do that.
So what should we know as we go through this? So, like wanting to if you think this is a correct summary of our conversations, we're wanting to remove negativity and basically improve our lives, right?
Yeah, and come to terms with ourselves, with our traumas and our backgrounds,
Yeah.
and reclaim that hidden power that's inside.
Yeah. What do we need to know? Let's take two cards. Let's start with this one. Oh, Onyx. Find protection and strength. Let courage guide your path. I don't think I actually have any Onyx.
Oh, that's a little surprising. I will
Uh,
have to find one and give it to you during this Yule season.
And Serpentine, embrace transformation, let go of old patterns and beliefs. These both fit perfectly with what we're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
especially the serpentine one.
yeah, I I need to get more crystals. I have a lot, but I have a lot of kind of, I don't know that I have a ton of variety. I probably have, I don't know, 17 or 18 different crystal types, but
Hmm.
I don't have onyx and I don't have serpentine, or at least not that I can think of. So, yeah. Where do you get your crystals at?
I have a local crystal shop that I go to. And so if you're lucky enough, that is probably the best, not only shop local and support local businesses, but also it's wonderful to actually be in the shop, pick up the crystals, feel their energies, their vibrations, read about them before you decide on which one to get or
Yeah,
which ones, because it's usually not just one. I don't, I very rarely have, I think maybe once in my life I've gone in and gotten one crystal and it was specifically for somebody else. But otherwise I always come up with more than I intend because they're wonderful.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to do that. That sounds like a great idea. I don't think we have a crystal shop in our little town, but we have uh, the person that lives up the street from us owns a little bookstore, and I have her order most of my cards
Hmm.
just to send money in that direction rather than the big stores. And the people that make the cards are still getting money, so that makes sense to me. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I think releasing negative energy, stagnant energy. I think the salt cure is really nice because it doesn't involve smells or smoke.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, you can obviously use Palo Santo or sage or you can, if you really wanted to use essential oils, you can use like cedar wood is what I picked out and juniper. Notice these are kind of the smells of Christmas. Um, And then clary sage is also a good one, but and just put it in a diffuser. I sometimes do that, but I'll do it and then I'll turn on the diffuser and then I'll go to work.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah. Yeah,
this
and I smudge, but I also because I love smudging. I think there is something sacred about that sort of energy.
absolutely.
But it is also I don't do it every day. Um, I do be careful because I do have friends who are sensitive to the smell of burning sage. So
Yeah, sometimes it can trigger an asthma type of thing, as can essential oils or perfumes or colognes and all sorts of things. So uh,
yeah.
everybody's
Well,
got intolerance.
yeah, and I will say in my particular case, my friend is she was traumatized by an ex who overused on marijuana. And sage is has a earthy smell to it, similar to
Mhm.
marijuana. It's not the same, but it does have some overtones that are similar, and so there's that connection that she can't shake. So for
Make
sure, if you are sensitive to the marijuana smell, do not use sage. Use the little pieces of wood instead.
Yeah, the Palo Santo sticks.
Yeah,
I,
they're very good.
I really like those. Um, yeah. Well,
Well, I'm wondering if we should end with a little bit of a guided meditation that kind of introduces everybody to shadow work. It's not going to be a full-blown like shadow work meditation, but it is kind of it's a start.
sounds fantastic.
All right. And I would suggest like if you want to, you can get a candle in front of you and work with that. You don't have to. It can be very nice and calming though. So, we're going to start by taking a slow, deep breath in and exhale fully. Let your body settle wherever you're sitting or lying down. Feel the weight of your body being held. Now imagine a soft, dim light forming around you, warm, protective, and steady. This is your safe space, your sacred circle. In front of you, picture a gently glowing doorway. It doesn't lead to anywhere frightening, only inward to a quieter part of yourself. When you're ready, take a slow breath and step toward the doorway in your mind. On the other side, you see a small flickering light, your inner truth, waiting patiently. You sense there is something here that wants to be acknowledged, not fixed, not judged, just seen. Ask softly in your mind, what part of me needs my attention right now? You may notice a feeling, an image, a memory, or simply a sensation in the body. Whatever arises, greet it with kindness. Say, thank you for showing yourself. You don't have to explore further today. This first step is simply about opening the door. Let that be enough. Now gently imagine the light around you becoming brighter, warming your chest, your shoulders, your face. Feel yourself returning to the present moment, grounded and safe. Take one more slow inhale and a long, relaxed exhale. When you're ready, open your eyes. You've taken your first step toward shadow work, softly and with intention. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Anne. And we'll be back with another video soon. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.